once again to discuss things.
Let's go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Me.
Yes, me. My new co-host, me. Get used to him. He's going to be around for a lot of videos since we got rid of that Steve fucker.
That guy's so annoying, too.
He is. He hates everything.
He does. He keeps interrupting, and he hates everything, and he's so political.
I know. Anyway, Steve, what are we talking about today on character discussions?
Today, we're talking about your pick, which is Anti-Santa Krampus.
Krampus. So Krampus is a character who has really taken off in the last couple of years. Like, pre-2015, I vaguely remember hearing about Krampus one or two times, or hearing about the idea of, like, an evil Santa Claus. After that fucking movie, just everywhere, Krampus.
That movie was, I think for a lot of people, not only their introduction to Krampus, but also made well enough that it kind of indulged everyone that was vaguely aware of the idea beforehand and became a fan afterwards, because it didn't do anything that was too specific to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also made by the guy that did Trick or Treat, which is very similar and has the same sort of cult following.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I went to... because we did Krampus when it was still new in theaters for Geeky Gentlemen, and I remember going to it and being like, God, this movie's gonna suck, isn't it? Because, like, all holiday horror movies tend to suck, to varying degrees, but no, it was a really well-made, really fun film, and it really, really ignited a lot of popularity for the character. The only other thing I can think of that did the same kind of thing was when South Park did Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, Cthulhu had obviously been around, and, like, there were people that knew of him, and he had, like, a cult following, but, like, South Park did Cthulhu, and suddenly there was, like, Cthulhu plushies, Cthulhu merchandise. It helped reignite an interest in the character.
Well, and again, with a lot of things like Cthulhu that has a particular mythology and a particular lineage, South Park did the thing where, again, they made a version of Cthulhu that was consistent with what we know about Cthulhu from Lovecraft, and did very little of its own thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not South Park's Cthulhu in the same way Cthulhu in Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy's Cthulhu.
Yeah. And that's interesting when that happens, when things can, like, really just not do much more than adapt, or just bring a thing into another medium, and it kind of, like, reignites a love for it. Like, Manos and his wife did the Krampus in the Corner thing.
Yeah, which took off.
Yeah, it was crazy that was as successful as it was, and it was great for them. And it's just, it's neat that like kind of thing and interest in a character can happen. And it seems like we're gonna get a Krampus movie every year now. Like, I don't think any are gonna be as popular as the initial one, and I don't know if the initial one's gonna get a sequel. But it seems like people are doing their own version of Krampus since he's public domain.
Yeah.
Like, I know Kevin Smith's attached to one. I don't know if it's out yet or not.
I've heard of that. I don't know anything about it, particularly because I don't like Kevin Smith very much. But when it comes to Krampus, even though it's public domain, everyone's doing their own thing with it. There's a really good, as opposed to Jack Frost from last week, really good, consistent mythology, and just the idea of he's anti-Santa Claus. Like,
mm-hmm.
It's not complicated, and it's broad enough that you could do a lot, but it's tied to something really specific, which is Coca-Cola era Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really rarely ever get too far away from it. And it was always just a cool kind of, particularly in more modern terms, just kind of edgy idea anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is that thing of, like, just, I don't like Christmas, fuck Santa Claus, I worship Krampus.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Teenagery thing, right?
Exactly. It's the whole dress in black, tattooed punk music guy of, like, Santa Claus is capitalist, Krampus is justice.
How is Santa Claus capitalist? He gives his stuff away for free.
Maybe Santa isn't. I don't think Santa is. I think Christmas is. That's different. That's a totally different topic.
There's a discussion topic for you.
Well, and also, apparently, there is a person credited with creating Krampus.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, because if you look at the credits of the Krampus movie, it says Krampus created by.
Huh.
And I don't know who that is, and I can't find their name anywhere except that movie, and I don't have the movie on hand to look up the name.
That's crazy, though, that, like, because it seems like it's so old world myth, right? It just seems like it comes right out of the same tradition as Santa Claus and all that shit.
I mean, that's what I figure. I know there are a lot of countries that have particular myths that are basically, here's a devil that punishes children for being bad and is, in European terms, anti-Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
They may not call him Krampus, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, and, like, I've seen really old-looking art, and I guess you could make art look old however you want by just using different methods, different, like, formats to present it in. But I've seen older-looking art of Krampus, That's really shocking. Like, maybe the guy created the name,
maybe.
Really boiled it down to one singular name for this demon or something.
Or maybe there's a really particular short story with Krampus that they're just pulling from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing that I really like that uses Krampus, though, is Morrison's Klaus.
Oh, God.
God, Krampus is so fucking cool in that. Like, he just...
Oh, I know.
He looks terrifying, he's completely overpowering, and he gives Santa just the coolest... Like, Morrison has this ability to just perfectly set up, what is it, dichotomy?
Yeah.
Is the word I want? Between characters. Like, he did this... Like, he made Spawn good for 5 issues, right?
3 issues.
3 issues, yeah.
Spawn
He made
was
Spawn
never good
good
for 5 issues.
He made Spawn good for 3 issues, and he did it, and in the process he set up a negative Spawn. And so, like, Morrison just really knows how to do this. So, like, I love what he does with Krampus and Klaus in that, where he's got Krampus taking away the spoiled prince, and he's like saying, I'm gonna take away all the naughty children. And Santa just, like, jumps off a rooftop with a sword. He's like, I say there are no naughty children. And, like, that is like the perfect epitome of, like, 2 completely opposing philosophies. And perfectly, like, solidifies who these characters are in mythology. In just one little exchange in the middle of a fight. It's brilliant.
Grant Morrison really made everything epic with that story. Klaus is, I think, one of his best works, which is weird to say.
It's one of his best, and probably not entirely because of just how easy to pick up and read it is. I feel like Morrison kind of gets wrapped up in trying to connect everything and give everything a grander purpose, and that alienates a lot of people.
Well, and I
think when he tries to simplify stuff, it's when he does his best work.
Yeah, and I think with Krampus and Klaus in that version, he was guided very particularly by... There are versions of these characters that everyone recognizes, but there's nothing in print or in film that is simply what they recognize. And so he wanted to do something that kind of played that duality. And so his Krampus is perfect for his Klaus. In the same way, Krampus in basically anything I've ever seen him in is perfect for whatever people are talking about Santa Claus at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a really cool study of horror movies in the 80s forward, like the beginning of the slasher trend and at the tail end of the Paranormal Activity style, and then leading into, like, The Conjuring and stuff, where phobias stopped moving from an outsider invading the home and became the home itself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at things in that horror tradition, because Krampus, the one that came out a couple years ago, is a horror movie, however you want to define that, that version of Krampus is really particular to that modern idea of horror, of the horror is inside the house because the family is squabbling and that's why he's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And I like the idea of having consequences on Christmas kind of thing, you know? That's really, really cool. Because, like, you know, the most negative Santa ever got was, oh, he'll give you a piece of coal. Which I'm like, really? Really, Santa, that's it? That's all you're doing to the naughty kids? They don't get presents, they just get a piece of coal? It's so soft, right? And I imagine, yeah, that's the hardest Santa could possibly be. So, like, let's really make something to scare the kids, right?
Yeah.
And give us Krampus. And I really, really like that. It is that perfect level of bad parenting.
Look, listen to me or an evil goat man is going to murder you on Christmas.
Right? Right? Oh, it's the best. It's so good. Okay, let me ask you this. Design-wise, do you like the idea of Krampus as like a guy? Do you like the goat monster? What's your preference?
I've always had a disposition for anything vaguely demonic that is kind of a goat monster.
Mm-hmm.
The witch, as problematic as that movie is, I liked that the devil was in that movie mostly just as a black goat.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Krampus as being like a hunched over goat-like figure is cool. Partly also because I grew up in New Jersey, and as a kid, everyone would like exchange stories about the quote-unquote Jersey Devil and the whole sort of like goat imagery of that. Just from the way he looks, I think the 2015, I guess, movie Krampus, where he's dressed like Santa Claus, but he is a hunchback goat monster, is probably my favorite design.
Yeah, I really like that. I like when it blends this idea to kind of mock Santa Claus, you know?
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy that about it.
And I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as mock. I would just say Santa and Krampus are almost in league with each other, where like Krampus does the thing Santa does, except in reverse, and Santa's got no problem with it.
See, I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that Santa doesn't care. Which again kind of goes to why I like the moment in Klaus so much, where it's like Santa doesn't think there are naughty children. I really, really like that idea.
To be fair, though, I think it's really unique to Morrison to make Klaus and Santa eternal
enemies?
arch enemies.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't mind the idea of Santa's powerless to stop it, but I don't like the idea that Santa doesn't care that it's happening, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I guess partly because there's almost nothing except that has Santa talking about Krampus that gives me that notion of he's just fine with it.
I just think it's mainly like people not wanting to do Santa in those things. Like with a bunch of Krampus stuff happening, it seems like it's almost inevitable we'll eventually get something with Santa and Krampus in the same film.
I mean, it kind of makes you wonder why there isn't like some weird Christian movie about Santa and Krampus.
Budget, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so movies, talked about the comic. Did you have a version of Krampus you really like?
Well, assuming we're not talking about the movie from 2015, because that's my favorite version of it. What else is he in? He's in an episode of Supernatural.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I want to say this is really, really early on, too. I don't know if he's actually in it, but it's a Christmas episode. And I remember particularly because the episode was called A Very Supernatural Christmas. But there is like a demon monster thing attacking people on Christmas, and that was cool partly because Supernatural's always had sort of a tongue-in-cheek relationship to its horror, where it understood very early on that it had a formula and it was getting repetitive. And so sort of the jadedness of the characters in dealing with supernatural stuff fit with their ability to fight those monsters. And so having like an in-joke of, it's evil Santa Claus over and over again was legitimately funny for me.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool. I've caught bits and pieces of Supernatural. I think it's a neat show.
That show lives and dies on the cast loves each other.
Yeah. Huh. All right. So favorite versions. I don't know. Why don't you take us somewhere, Steve?
So I guess maybe somewhere similar on the lines of Jack Frost. Krampus appears in a lot of like random ancient literature and gets combined into a lot of things. He coalesces a lot more like ancient figures than Jack Frost does, but I kind of like, because Krampus is not, he doesn't parallel Christmas in any way. There wasn't like at least as far as I'm aware, it's not like these very particular checkpoints of Krampus got popular because of these things in the same way Santa Claus did with like A Christmas Carol and Coca-Cola and stuff like that. The whole idea of a contrast between Santa Claus and Krampus happens almost purely by coincidence of they're kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that. Like, in particular, there was I forget where this is from. I think it's Italian. I think that there's a particular story where Krampus is even like a monster, but like people that are bad get inflicted with a disease, and the word for it has Krampus in it. So like Krampus is in a lot of early fiction more of like an ethereal thing, and then got distilled down more into a character a lot later.
That's interesting.
I don't think now Krampus works without the context of Christmas, because then it's just a horror movie monster cliche.
Yeah, then it's just like demon, right?
Yeah, like at that point, who cares?
Yeah, you know, it'd be like fun to see. We did this with Jack Frost. Let's do pitches, because I just thought of a cool pitch for a Krampus thing.
Okay.
All right. So my Krampus comic book would be Krampus, but in other famous Christmas stories. So you got to start out with the Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Where Ebenezer Scrooge doesn't change after he gets visited by the three ghosts, so then he gets visited by Krampus instead, because that would be awesome. Like Krampus versus Frosty the Snowman, where he's just like trying to steal the hat so he has his soul. That'd be real. Like, and then he would fucking like wear it. That'd be the shit.
Murder on the Orient Express, except it's Polar Express and Krampus.
Yeah. I could totally dig this. This could be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I kind of want that.
Yeah, me too. Boom Studios, call me up. I got this.
You got
I'm
Krampus
on it.
every year.
Yeah, you could do that. Just like a yearly, like, you know, extra-sized one-shot comic. Doesn't have to connect to anything else. It's just Krampus fucking with people and different famous holiday stories.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
For me, I probably want to do it. Santa Claus in a lot of myth, I think, is the protagonist of isn't the protagonist of the myth that we're talking about. It's usually from the kid's perspective or an elf or something like that. I'd kind of want to do that with Krampus and make it something along the lines of like, you're one of Krampus's equivalents to an elf, or you're following one of Krampus's equivalents to an elf, as he prepares the list of naughty children he's going to visit. Mm-hmm. And Krampus is almost like a Darth Vader thing, where like you see him very rarely, he does very little, he checks his own list and stuff like that. But I'd want him to have a very particular guideline of almost what's that thing called? Crypt Keeper style, Tales from the Crypt idea of it has to be ironic, and he's going to have a commentary of it as it's happening, and a very particular people are getting punished. I'd almost make it Tales from the Crypt, except with Krampus.
So he's just like, every time you're just finding out another thing that he did. Like,
yeah.
And how it was like this bitter irony.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool too. I like that. Man, Krampus just is a neat thing, and I feel like the reason he took off so much is because for so long we hadn't explored the idea of this character in depth, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the Krampus myth is just like, oh, there's an evil Santa Claus, and if you're not a good boy or girl, then he's gonna come and take you away. Like, I feel like that's the entire Krampus myth, whereas Santa's, like, got this whole thing to him.
Yeah.
Like, there's the basic of Santa Claus. Like, that's it with Krampus. With Santa Claus, like, okay, yeah, there's the basic of, oh, if you're a good boy or girl, Santa will bring you a present on Christmas Day. Oh, cool. How does he bring me a present? Oh, well, he gets in a sleigh and it's pulled by, 10 reindeer. Oh, cool. Where does he leave from? He has a shop at the North Pole with his wife and a bunch of magical elves that make all the toys. Oh, how did he get the shop? Like, you can just keep going with Santa. There's been so much explored with Santa, whereas you haven't seen that done with Krampus. And I feel like a lot of the excitement around the character, kind of brought on by that movie, has to do with the fact of just getting a new, like, a new old holiday icon to do stuff with, and this one appeals to kind of the darker side of things. So like all of those sourpuss Scrooge bastards like myself have something to look forward to around Christmas time, you know? Oh.
I kind of like that, though. I like that Krampus is sort of starting to take off, and even now we don't have like a coalesced history in the same way. Like, you can advertise Jack Frost and you can advertise Santa in a way you can't advertise with Krampus.
Oh, definitely not.
Because he's going to be so relative to what's happening.
That, and I mean, it's just how many, like, advertising icons are, like, dark in that same way, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got a couple, like, there's the Allstate guy that, like, you know, he's trouble or whatever. You got a couple like that where, like, their mascot is a negative, but that's so rare by comparison, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like, and to do Krampus right, you couldn't do him nearly as dark as he needs to be able to be done on television.
Yeah.
In a commercial.
And I think part of what works with the 2015 Krampus movie is that it's a PG-13 horror movie. Like, there were fucking gingerbread men that are attacking people. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's dark, but it's tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, and you kind of need that for some of these characters. Like, R-rated is fine and all, but it's harder for things to take off if you can't get kids into it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, my dad, I did not wait till I was 13 to go to any PG-13 movie. It's ridiculous.
Same.
Yeah, it's just... It's... You need that, like, young interest, and you kind of need kids to be afraid of him, but, like, in the like afraid but fascinated kind of sense, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a fairy tale thing, right? Like, there were a lot of good old children's stories that have dark endings, but they're dark in relation to the cutesier stuff around them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you think of like those old Grimm fairy tales, the kind of like the kids get eaten up by the witch thing, it's such a tonal shift away from the main thing about the story that roped the kid in the first place.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point of them, is to subvert the expectation and give, like, the thing that gets shocked into their brain. Because those stories were originally meant to serve for, like, don't do this.
Yeah. Well, is Krampus a morality tale in a way, in relation to Christmas, in a way it wasn't before?
How do you mean?
Well, because Krampus now is... he punishes bad children. But then in the 2015 movie, he punishes bad children who'd, like, disrespect Christmas in the same way Sam did in Trick or Treat for people who don't follow the rules of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Krampus is a bedtime story for getting children to behave, but there's more, I guess, ethos to it in relation to Christmas than it would be by itself. Mm-hmm. Well, like, arbitrarily, it's just don't be a bad person so this goat monster doesn't attack you. Where now it's behave appropriately during this appropriate time so this thing doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think what's really needed is just another big take on the character to come out.
Yeah.
Like, we need more rules for Krampus so that we can, you know, understand him more, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, the next movie, Krampus needs more screen time. If the 2015 film gets a sequel, Krampus just needs more screen time. Because you're waiting to see him the whole movie. And then he's there, and he's awesome, but he's so not enough of the focus of that film.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. That was definitely one of my issues with it. Particularly in relation to Trick or Treat, where Sam gets an entire short devoted to him in a way Krampus doesn't get an act devoted to him in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I particularly want more of that kind of, not only bitter irony of it, but also, if you're good on Christmas, Santa gives you presents. If you're bad on Christmas, not only does Santa not give you presents, but this other thing shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's an equilibrium to this between Santa and Krampus.
Yeah, like, you know, you need the next Krampus story to be about just, like, a really spoiled-ass rich kid.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Well, like your initial pitch, like do a Christmas Carol, except Scrooge doesn't learn his lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you don't have to do that story literally, but you can do something like that where it's not as innocuous as a kid and his family fighting, because it seems more like that's more standard, and it's almost a little bit unfair to the degrees in which Krampus goes to that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where it has to be more particular, like in Trick or Treat, it was a kid's walking across the street smashing all the pumpkins, or a teacher's murdering children. Or
a guy's not giving out candy.
Yeah, a guy's not giving out candy. They're taking the decorations down too early because they don't like it. Like there are more specific disrespects to the holiday that they're committing that justifies, quote unquote, justifies Sam murdering the crap out of them. In a way, there isn't quite with Krampus.
Yeah. So you just need more rules with Krampus. Then you need more like what exactly brings him, compared to like what you need is a bargaining scene. That'd be really cool.
Ooh,
so it's like, awesome. Yeah, like I'm not as bad as this person down the street. I'm not as bad as this. I didn't do this, and Krampus Krampus tells them, no, you did this, and that was the thing that brought me. But here's a question for you: you want Krampus to talk or no? Should Krampus be a talker?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do a lot with Krampus without him speaking, particularly if you have more of that visual. He's dressed like Santa, but he's hunched over an evil, or he's like traps them in a snow globe or something like that. Like I don't think Krampus needs to speak, and I think the whole goat devil aesthetic just wouldn't look right if he was talking.
I don't know. See, for me, it worked in the Klaus comics. I could see it on screen. I think you could get away with it in film in a way that you couldn't get away with like a silent Krampus in like a comic or other mediums, because the silent killer, the silent murderer is a pretty well established trope in film, and it's not used very much outside of that. Because on film, it's easier to convey that something is thinking without having to necessarily make it talk than it is in other mediums.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, what you fear is my fear with having Krampus not talk is at that point, does he just become a monster? And that's what I don't like. I don't like the idea that he's just like a Godzilla type or something, where there's no thought behind it. It's just rampant destruction. I like there to be a pathos behind the character.
That's fair. I agree with that.
Go ahead.
Also, because I think Santa Claus has got such a distinct personality every time you see him, it'd be cool to see multiple versions of Krampus having a distinct personality. Is he the charming devil? Is he decrepit and old and evil? There's a lot you could do with that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I'd like something where he's more like just creepy and Schadenfreude. You know that term?
No.
It's a German term, means to take pleasure in the suffering of others.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you need wicked. I think that's the other way to put it. Is just gleeful in causing pain.
Yeah,
be a great way for Krampus to exist, because like you don't want a sympathetic Krampus. That would just be disappointing.
Well, you don't want a sympathetic Krampus, and at the same time, you want the focus to be the actions, not necessarily his motivations behind it. You want it to be about the person he's punishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. How much of the like mythos around him do you want built up? Like, do we want like origins for how he gets helpers and stuff like that? Did he fucking raid the island of misfit toys? Because that could be the shit.
That would be so cool. Now you say that, like all the misfit toys, they just have lacking purpose and are angsty, and then Krampus shows up and says, "Get revenge."
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Are you kidding? That sounds amazing.
Oh man, that'd be the shit. Oh, that's how he gets. Like, how does it like? Because in the movie, he's got the elves as helpers too.
Yeah,
And like, so how do they get there? They like fuck up something at Santa's workshop and get kicked out? Oh man, this has got a lot of potential.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it'd be neat to make kind of a Krampus that just on a lot of different levels, like, is literally anti-Santa Claus. So like, I don't know what his Mrs. Claus counterpart would be. That could be really interesting to go into as well.
Yeah,
just like
more of that.
Yeah, just do like more of like, okay, what do we know about Santa? Now, how do we pervert it?
Transportation.
Yeah, how do we pervert it for Krampus? Is the unique idea there?
Yeah, tying it more and more into that sort of equilibrium with Santa Claus, and then also just maybe doing a story from Santa Claus's perspective as to why he lets this go on.
Yeah,
like let's do a reboot of Tim Allen's Santa Claus movies where he faces Krampus.
Oh my god.
And don't do it as super dark and creepy. Do it more in the tone of that first one where there's a personal drama in between a really slapstick comedy.
Okay, I could be down.
I don't like that. Tim Allen's a jackass, but I could be down for that.
I didn't know Tim Allen was a jackass.
At this point, who isn't though?
I'm afraid to find out something about Tim Allen shit. Okay, I think that'll about wrap it up. Recommendations for Krampus, I'm going to go with the 2015 film and Grant Morrison's Klaus. I think those do really strong presentations of the character. You
just stole both of the good ones.
Yeah, I know. That's why I went first.
The Supernatural episode, if I remember correctly, because that was like really early on, season 1 or 2. So I remember liking that a lot. And there's a Supernatural ripoff show. Not ripoff. I don't like it as much, but there's another Supernatural-esque show called Grimm. I don't even know if it's still on the air. I did a Krampus episode that I really liked. And what else is Krampus in?
I don't know.
Oh, have you seen Krampus Unleashed?
No, I have not.
Okay, that was a Krampus movie that was a direct-to-DVD Krampus movie from last year. That's really funny because it's awful.
Okay. We can also recommend Krampus in the Corner by Justin Cristelli. He did the short book that comes with that. That's Manos's thing, so you can go get that. I'm pretty sure they're still selling those.
They are. He's just packing some more of those out to ship recently.
Yeah. It's too much fun that he that was able to take off for him.
And that thing was adorable. I really like that Krampus design that they came up with.
Yeah, I've been really tempted to get it. I think I might this year. I
think I will too. I think it's fantastic. It's exciting.
Yeah. All right, Steve, who are we going to be talking about next time? Assuming there's a next time. I don't know how time works, so let's see here. This is uploaded on Jack Frost is on the 5th. This on the 12th. Yeah, we got 2 more of these.
Okay.
Who are we talking about next time?
Other holiday figures.
That are actually worth talking about.
No, that's fair. Let's see.
I am
gonna Google something.
Edge of my seat right now. I love that we always have this happen where everyone knows that it's their topic pick, but then they forget that it's their pick.
I should have came up with something. I just didn't.
Oh, it's too funny.
And also not something that isn't super obscure.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't be fun.
We might not be able to do character discussions next year. We might burn through all the Christmas characters that are worth talking about this year.
Honestly, though, we got Krampus, we got Jack Frost. Who the fuck cares about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yeah.
I could pick Frosty the Snowman, but I don't know how much there is to say about Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Ebenezer Scrooge could work.
How much is there to say about Ebenezer Scrooge?
Well, I mean, the damn story's been adapted about 1 million times.
Yeah, but what's different about it? I mean, I love every version of The Christmas Carol, But like, you watch every version of the Christmas Carol for everything except the bare bones story of the Christmas Carol. Right? Like, everyone knows what happens. That's not the point anymore.
Okay.
Ooh. Mrs. Claus.
Mrs. Claus. Oh. All right. Yeah,
That's
we'll do
something.
that. Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the Exile.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!